All right, we'll start it over again. We're working now. Everybody should be able to hear me. Let's get rocking. All right. So like I was saying, come with an open heart and open mind. The goal is to help empower both you and your community. What we're going to look at first is how the brain develops. I wouldn't touch that if I was you.
It's your crook and you're like,
Is that better? Are you good now?
Yes.
All right, so we look at brain development. Basically, what we're going to look at, I want you guys to practice this, is going to be your spinal cord. This is going to be your brain. Your brain develops from the bottom to the top, back to front, inside out like a flower, and then right to left. When we are stressed out, our brain actually skips stages of development and goes to left brain dominance. So what we'll see here is, remember the right to left? So every single person that we have seen is right brain weak. And that's because they have gone through stress in some stage in their life and it actually sped up development to become left brain dominant. We chronically see this in people with traumatic head injuries. So if you are, and it's very prominent in females, if you're a female and you've had a TBI, you will actually become left brain dominant. So when we look at your EEG and I see left brain dominant, I go, you had a head injury sometime in your life. And they go, how do you know? And I'm like, because your brain is telling me, because you're not supposed to be left brain dominant as a female, you should be right brain. Should be more global thinking, bigger perspective. The more linear you are, the more issues that we're going to run into. So when we look at how this works, we have the brain. So here's the bottom, here's the top, here's the back, here's the front. So we go bottom to top, back to front, right to left, and then inside out. This is how we develop. But like I was saying, if you have stress, your brain's automatic response is to become left brain dominant. Why does this happen? It happens because we're actually trying to figure out how to never have this happen again. So we don't need to be an artist if we're going to get attacked all the time. So we're going to literally figure out how to not get attacked, and then our brain should be able to go back. But if this stays up for too long, we can get immune issues, developmental issues, we can get learning disabilities, we can get lots of different things that will show up. So we want to see that right to left development. Now, the key for all of this, though, is to understand, where does fight or flight hang out? And it actually hangs out in cranial nerves 1 to 4. Right here in the pons, or the middle part of the brainstem. The bottom part, cranial nerves 5 through 12, are not fight or flighters as much. They can turn on, but that's the main stuff. So cranial nerves 1, 2, 3, and 4 is smell and eye movement. So what I'm basically telling you is the biggest triggers of fight or flight is going to be seeing it or smelling it. So that's why people can literally get triggered into a problem through smelling stuff. This is also how we'll see people that use aromatherapy, how it works. So it actually goes directly into the brain. This is the only sense that directly feeds into the brain. The other ones don't feed as easily into the brain. So with olfactory, it literally goes directly into the brain. So smell will do that. So this is why you can be triggered by a smell and have a memory come back, is it literally goes directly in and will trigger you. Now, that fight or flight response is here. If we look at developmentally, how easy do we get triggered into fight or flight when we're small? Very easily. I'm hungry, fight or flight. I get scared, fight or flight. So what does that mean? Baby cries. That's how baby expresses itself when it's in fight or flight. It cries, and that's an expression of fear. The problem is when we're in fight or flight and we're older, it comes up as other things like anxiety, as depression, as sleep issues, as visual issues, as cognitive issues, as memory. So it shows up differently as we get older. But what we see is when we're developing, we see baby is able to first pull themselves up. If they can't do that by a certain fit time, it tells me motor cortex up top and cerebellum isn't working correctly. So this little divot back here that I always draw on, that's the cerebellum. That's the part of the brain that literally is one of its jobs is to control movement, but it's also to turn off fight or flight from the bottom. So if we look at the bottom, fight or flight gets turned off here. If we look at the top, it gets turned off from the frontal lobe. So if we look at the frontal lobe, we're actually going to be talking about literally half the brain. This is all frontal lobe. This is motor cortex, executive center, prefrontal cortex, frontal cortex, all the good stuff that we're told is memory, root of who I am, all that stuff, frontal lobe. So how does this work? Baby pulls up, doing good. Baby then starts crawling, and when they're crawling, they're starting to actually turn on the cerebellum, a little bit of the motor cortex, which is the top of the brain. Then baby gets to a point where they stand up. This is the biggest driver. So your ankles and your wrists drive into the cerebellum the most information. So wrist and hands. So this is why if you've ever seen, if you're really stressed out, they give people stress balls. That's literally wrist and hand driving. If we want to look at this as a thing called the homunculus, which is how the brain sees the world in the motor cortex. So you use your hands and your ankles. So why am I bringing this up? As soon as baby starts to walk, it will then stimulate cerebellum, and then it will go up and it will stimulate frontal lobe. Cerebellum comes in and turns off fight or flight from movement. Frontal lobe, executive center, turns it off from the front. Top down. So top down turns off and bottom down or bottom up turns off as well. The stronger of the two is the frontal lobe. So as we develop, if we develop correctly, the stronger the frontal lobe is, the healthier we are. The healthier our immune system is, the healthy our cognitive ability is, the healthier everything is. Frontal lobe's job is to turn off all the bad stuff. It can actually overwhelm things. It can actually change functions in your body. How the brain is set up is hierarchically, the newest neuron actually is stronger than the older ones. It actually has more, it's a hierarchy. So it's like the king has all the power, and then his direct table has the power, but he ultimately has all the power. And then it goes down and down and down. Well, the king of the brain is the frontal lobe. Let me repeat that again. The king of the brain is the frontal lobe. Down here, this is going to be more like a second in command or a general or something like that. That's the cerebellum. Both of them work, but this is the one that turns everything off. The problem is when you go into fight or flight, you activate brainstem and you actually turn off frontal lobe, which means now you're not using the king. Your executive center is not there, and we have to use other movements and actions to try to turn it off. So what is the easiest way to stimulate cerebellum and frontal lobe? Walking. 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 So I said it 3 times because it's literally stupid, simple, easy. Walking is the quickest way to get you healthy with heart disease. Walking is the quickest way to make your anxiety and depression decrease. Walking is the quickest way for your sleep issue to decrease. Walking is the quickest way to stimulate your frontal lobe, cerebellum, turn off fight flight. I hope I got that across. Walking. So walking is our goal. So if we want to get out of anxiety, depression, fight, flight, sleep issues, chronic things that we see all the time, walking is the answer. How many people don't walk? How many people drive everywhere, have a Segway, have a little scooter thing? The one that really annoys me is the bikes now. They don't even ride bikes anymore. They're just all electrical. So you're literally not stimulating your brain by doing what you're supposed to do, which is walking or stimulating your ankles. This is why people who exercise live longer. It's because they literally stimulate their brain through moving the information. Now, there's other things that happen, but it's literally neurologically walking stimulates you, and that's why you get better. So that's why if you're stressed, going for a walk literally makes your brain work better. It will also help you with various other things. So we're going to get into that. So what does it do? It inhibits the brainstem like we were talking about, bottom up, top down. Excellent. The other thing walking will do or movement will do is will increase oxygen and it will increase glucose to the brain. What does the brain need for it to work correctly? It needs stimulation. That means the environment. That means you can hear it, you can smell it, you can taste it, you can see it. Then you need sugar, you need glucose. And then you need oxygen. All of these are what the brain needs to work correctly. If you don't have it, you have problems. The thing that we add in that no other neurofeedback place adds in is we also use light, because your brain needs light to actually use the energy to make neural connections. So we actually do auricular therapy where we drive photons of light through the ear into the brain. So we give it everything that it needs. If you have all this, your brain will develop correctly, it will heal, and everything will work correctly. The other thing that walking will do is will increase or movement in general, but specifically walking is more important because when you're weight bearing, you're actually turning on your frontal lobe. If you want to really get stressed out, do everything on all fours, and that will turn you more into primitive brain. So that means brainstem, and then you'll be more reactive. So the other thing that it will do is will increase B, D, N, F. Brain-derived neurotrophic factor. What does this mean? It means you grow more connections. The adjustment will increase BDNF. Walking will increase BDNF. The laser will increase BDNF. These are all ways to actually increase the number of connections the brain will have. Brain-derived neurotrophic factor will increase with movement. That means the more you move, the better you are. So we've heard the adage, if you don't move it, you lose it. This is true with the brain. So we need to literally keep it. If you want to understand the secret to aging in life, it's literally how healthy do you keep your frontal lobe? The healthier you keep your frontal lobe, the longer you will live. If you want to look at the body, it's how much muscle mass you have. Higher muscle mass literally correlates to longevity. The more muscle mass you have, the longer you will live. So it doesn't mean you need to become Arnold Schwarzenegger, but what it means is if you have that muscle mass, you can metabolize out toxins, move better, be able to use your muscles to do more than just move. They do other things than just move. They actually remove toxins. They help with energy production. They help with your body working correctly. And we all know the muscles work when we're cold because they actually drive heat. When shivering is happening, that's a driving of heat to keep you alive. So muscle mass is a big one. As well as BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. If you want to understand what that looks like, say we have neuron here, neuron here, neuron here, neuron here. So we can see how all these nerves are connected. Nerve comes here, fires here, nerve fires like that. Well, what would happen if this nerve died? Now we've lost 2 to 3 functions. Well, that's a big issue. But what you can actually do is you can actually grow other connections and cause the function to come back. So when we adjust you, our goal is to do this. Then when we do laser, our goal is to do this. Then we recommend exercise, our goal is to do this. Then when we train you, our goal is to make sure that it fires at the right rate so your function actually works correctly. Does that make sense? I hope so. Perfect. So this is really cool. There is one place in the brain that can grow new neurons. I tell everybody you can't regrow new neurons. That's correct in the frontal lobe and the cerebellum. There is one place in the brain that has been proven that you can regrow no new neurons. And that is called your hippocampus. That is called your memory center. You can grow new neurons. You can actually have neurogenesis there, but you're not going to grow new frontal lobe. You're not going to grow new cerebellum. You're not going to grow new motor cortex. You're not going to grow new temporal lobe. You're not going to grow any of that stuff. So you can make new connections and make new memories, but the problem is if your frontal lobe isn't working correctly, you're falling apart. So the reason why I tell everybody you can't grow new neurons is because the ultimate level of importance where the areas where those problems are coming from, those areas you can't regrow new neurons. You can make new connections. But with movement, you will increase neurogenesis. That means make new neurons. Guess what else causes neurogenesis? Chiropractic adjustment. Guess what else causes neurogenesis? Laser therapy. So we're seeing the things that we do in the office is about making new connections and growing new neurons. That's the ultimate goal. It's not done by random. It's literally watching how we can integrate multiple things. The number one thing that will drive neurons to die is inflammation, specifically in the brain. And the number one thing that causes inflammation in the brain is lack of O2 or oxygen. If you don't have enough oxygen in the brain, and it needs to be at 97% in the brain. And I've had patients come in, well, I talked to my MD and he said 95 was fine, or he or she said that 93 was fine. I go, yeah, that's correct for the body. It's 97 for the brain. If you are somebody and you're at 90% or 88%, you have brain inflammation happening, and that's why you're not getting better. You need to be up high. The higher, the better. If we're at sea level, you need to be at 100%. But we're at 5,000 feet, 5,200, 6,000 feet, so we can get by with 97. But understand, the lower oxygen you have, that's literally going to kill you. You're going to have hypoxia, you're going to have heart attacks, you're going to have major issues. So most people aren't aware of this, but the number one leading cause of death in the mountains is sleep apnea causing heart attack. Because the oxygen compression isn't as high, the saturation, the amount of oxygen is the same, but the weight pushing it into your body isn't as high. So people move from sea level, then they come up to the mountains, and they're at like 8,000 feet, and they have sleep apnea, and then they live there, and now it turns into a heart attack. So we want to make sure we have enough oxygen for the neurons to work correctly. What are the other thing that we need to have? Sugar. We need glucose to be normal. This one is another pet peeve that I hear. I tell people, get a continuous glucose monitor, see how you're doing. And they'll ask their favorite AI bot, and it says normal is 70 to 140. Now, the problem with that is anything above 100 is high blood sugar. And anything below 85 is low blood sugar. And they will both cause cell toxicity problems, because both of them cause the cell to not get enough sugar. So how does this work? If it's too high, it's because the insulin receptor on the cell doesn't work correctly, so sugar can't get in. That's called type 2 diabetes, weight gain issues, or it could be type 1 diabetes where you don't make any insulin. If it's too low, you don't have enough sugar to get in. Either way, there's not enough energy in the cell. So what does that mean? You can't make the right proteins. What does that mean? You can't get rid of toxins. What does that mean? Too high or too low is bad. That's what it means. What do most people look for? Too high. What do most people miss? Too low. We chronically see people, usually females, and their blood sugar is running below 85, and that's the low end, all day. And that means their cells are starving and they can't understand why they're not able to make their brain work correctly, and they have anxiety and they have depression and they have all these symptoms, and it's literally because their brain is turning off because it doesn't have enough energy, which is executive center turning off. That means exercising and I pass out, blood sugar too low. And we've had ladies come in here where literally their sugar monitors tell them they're in the 70s and they think they're fine. And it's not okay. That's why you have your anxiety. That's why you're having your depression, is because the blood sugar is too low. The movement won't fix this. If you have oxygen not in control and blood sugar not in control, this is why I went here, you won't fix your brain. Impossible. Because you will have chronic inflammation. Because you can't make enough energy because you don't have enough oxygen, and you can't use the energy because your sugar is either too high or too low, so it's not being absorbed because it's too high, because you have type 1 or type 2 diabetes, or it's not being pushed in because it's too low and you don't have enough energy. Either way, your frontal lobe turns off, and then we get problems. So the takeaway is movement can literally help you heal your body, but you got to make sure, if you're going to do this stuff, do you have enough oxygen? How do we test it? We put one of those pulse oximeters on. And if you're not in Denver and you can't come see me, then you buy one on Amazon for 20 bucks or whatever it runs, and you put it on your right hand and you put it on your left hand, and you make sure they're both above 97. And if they're not, it tells us why you're not healing. And then the next thing we look at is, do you have enough blood sugar? If your blood sugar isn't high enough or too high, this is another reason why your exercise is not working and it's not helping you heal and stay in a healthy state. You have those two things, and we got about 80% of the problem taken care of. The other one we look at is cortisol levels. That's a whole nother ballgame. I'm not going to get into that. That causes blood sugar changes as well as a myriad of other issues. So when you have a friend or a family member who has anxiety or depression or sleep issues, it could be because their blood sugar is too low. And we've seen quite a few of those. They have anxiety that won't respond to medication. It could be their blood sugar is too low and they're inflamed because they're not getting enough energy, or their oxygen is too low, and it's not something commonly looked at. There is no people don't look at and say, well, if your blood sugar is low, you got anxiety. If your blood sugar is low, you have sleep issues. If your blood sugar is low, you have nobody looks at those things. So this is where we're looking at it differently. The other one is your oxygen too low? If it isn't working correctly, now it doesn't matter if you're given all these different drugs, your body doesn't have the energy to work correctly. If they are right, then let's move. If your sugar is good, your oxygen's good, your cortisol is good, then let's move. The more we walk, the better we get. Because walking will stimulate your cerebellum and your frontal lobe, which will turn off the brainstem. So if you're stressed out, the easiest thing you can do is go for a 20 to 30-minute walk, and it will literally calm you down because you will turn on your frontal lobe. It will make your body work correctly. It will increase oxygen. It will make you grow more memory neurons. It will help you grow more BD and F, so you have more connections. If you want to speed it up, you also get adjusted. If you want to speed it up even more, you also get laser done. So what I'm showing you here is there's a myriad of ways to do it. The cheapest, easiest is walk. Don't sit in front of the TV. That's not going to help you. It's walk. Oh, it's snowing out. Put on clothes and go for a walk. Go to the mall and just walk around inside the mall. There's lots of ways to help you, but understanding walking is directly correlated to cancer reduction, heart disease reduction, and it's all because the frontal lobe gets better. So if you make the frontal lobe better, you will heal. So how does movement affect the brain? It literally makes your memory better. How does movement affect your brain? turns on your frontal lobe, which changes everything. And how does movement affect your brain? Turns on your cerebellum and makes it work better, which turns off the fight or flight. So the takeaway is, if you move, you will heal. Does it have to be big, crazy activities? Do you have to play tennis? Do you have to go for a run? Do you have to ride a bike? Do you have to do some burst training? Do you have to do HIIT training? Do you have to? No, you go for a walk. And then if you move that walk into a jog, and then move that jog into a run, excellent. But I'm not saying start running. I'm saying if you haven't done anything, walk around the block. And do that for a couple of days, and then walk 2 times around the block. Do that for a couple, and then you can get to that half an hour. If you haven't walked at all and don't move at all and not on your feet at all, don't start by running. You'll cause more inflammation, which will make you worse. You have to work into things. You're not going to go to the gym if you've never exercised and lift 300 pounds. We all understand that. It's the same thing if you haven't moved at all. If you have a desk job and you don't stand all day like I do, then movement might be a problem for you and you need to stimulate the brain. That's why it's recommended that every half an hour to an hour, you stand up and walk around to get your frontal lobe turned on so you can actually think better. If you're stressed out, you go for that walk, frontal lobe turns on, now you can get the answers for whatever you're trying to figure out. The walk literally takes care of all the things. And when we're looking at this, if you walk with your spouse, then as you're stressed out, the stress starts coming down, then you can start talking and work through things. That's how the walk works. So that's the neurology. So the movement is the key. If you want to do more, using your hands above your head is also important. So any activities above your head, like say tennis, or I don't know, anything where you do things above your head, that also works as well, because it'll stimulate the cerebellum and the brainstem. So friend or family member who has anxiety, depression, sleep issues, heart disease, start walking. And if you want to get even quicker results, let us check you, and we can do blood tests and we can do EEGs, and we can literally figure out what's causing these issues and help you take care of it and help you improve yourself. So I want to thank you all for being here. And I want you to understand that you can change your life just by walking. It is literally that simple. You just got to do it repeatedly. Thank you, and bless you.